What's the funniest joke you've ever heard?
My favorite joke ever, although most people don't find it as funny as I do. Why can't you hear a pterodactyl go to the bathroom? Because the P is silent. Smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. I had a joke about wanting to be a magician. Blah blah blah, punchline. At the end of the night, I make a beautiful woman vanish in front of hundreds of people and get nothing but praise. But if I tried to practice in the privacy of my own home, the police start asking questions. You gotta reel them in. Bill called in sick one day, and when he came back to work his boss asks him why he was away. I wasn't well, said Bill. Bill's boss said, listen, Bill. If I'm sick in the morning before work, I make love to my wife for an hour and I go to work feeling great. So, try that next time. A few weeks later, Bill arrives late to work. Bill, why are you late? I was sick. Okay, but why are you here? Bill then explains. Well, I tried what you suggested, but now I felt great. Nice house you have, by the way. No, I'm not addicted to brake fluids. I can stop whenever I want. Mine's actually a joke I made, and it's funny to me because of how stupid it was. Basically, I was working in a store and saw a lady being served at the checkout frantically looking round as her son's hearing aid had fallen somewhere and she couldn't find it. She eventually found it laid on a packet of steak on the conveyor belt. I turned to my colleague and said it's a good job she found that. My colleague said why? I then said his hearing was at stake. Why did the sperm cross the road? Because I put on the wrong sock this morning. A man walks into a bar. A second man ducks. Did you hear about the agnostic dyslexic insomniac? Lay awake at night wondering if there really was a dog. Frank Sinatra was a great man. He saved my life once. I was out behind a club getting beat to death by 3 guys, and Frank comes out the back door and says, "Okay boys, he's had enough." Have you heard the one about the constipated mathematician? He worked his problems out with a pencil. I have 2 favorites. Why did Sally fall off the swing? She didn't have any arms. Knock knock, who's there? Not Sally. Where's a stormtrooper's favorite store? Next to Target. The chicken crossed the road. I had my penis in the Guinness Book of Records. The librarian asked me to take it out. And then he turned himself into a pickle. She claimed that we met at a vegetarian meeting, but I've never met herbivore. Gilbert Gottfried, The Aristocrats. Late entry. What's a pirate's favorite letter? Invariably, the person gives me their best. I be thinking so, but it do not be matching me love of the sea. 3 ducks were in the park after hours. They get arrested and go before the judge. Judge says, I don't want to waste your time, or mine. He talks to the first duck. What were you doing in the park after hours? First duck responds, blowing bubbles. Judge asks the second duck, what were you doing in the park after hours? Second duck replies, blowing bubbles. Judge gets to the third duck, let me guess, you were blowing bubbles? Third duck says, nope, I'm Bubbles. Blind guy walks into a bar and takes a seat near the bartender. Hey, he calls out to the bartender, want to hear a blonde joke? The bartender comes up close to him and whispers, before you go any further I should tell you that you're in a lesbian bar. There are 2 over there playing pool. They're both blondes. One is a professional weightlifter, the other's a professional wrestler. There's another blonde at the table behind you. She's a feminist lawyer with a long history of taking misogynistic pricks to court and ruining their lives. My girlfriend, the bouncer, is a blonde, and so am I, so think very carefully whether you want to tell your joke. The blind guy thinks for a moment and says, well, not if I'm going to have to tell it twice and then explain it 5 times. A captain in the French Foreign Legion is posted to his new command, a small fort far out in the desert. He arrives and asks to be taken on an inspection. Everything is in good order, except there's a mangy old female camel tied up behind the barracks. He asks his orderly why the camel is there, and the orderly says, well sir, we're a long way from the nearest town, and so when the men need some relief they find the camel convenient. The captain thinks to himself that this is disgusting, but in the interest of maintaining moral he decides to let it go. After a few months he realizes he 2, is in need of relief, so he asks his orderly to bring the camel to his quarters. After he has his not particularly successful way with the camel, he turns to his orderly and asks is how the enlisted men do it. The orderly replies, well, sir, the men usually just ride her into town. A man drives up to a country store. On the porch an old farmer is playing checkers with a dog. The man watches in amazement as they play and finally says to the farmer, wow, your dog is really smart. The farmer says, oh heck, he's not that smart, I beat him 2 times out of 3. A joke I made when I was 8, not that funny but the first actual punchline joke I made. This one is for the Aussies. Where was Pac-Man born? Wagga Wagga. My grandfather warned people that the Titanic would sink. No one listened, but he kept on warning them nonetheless until they got sick of him and kicked him out the cinema. Why did the little girl fall off the swing? She had no arms or legs. Knock knock. Who's there? Not the little girl. Why did the cat cross the road? Because the chicken had a laser pointer. I visited a blind prostitute last night, and she said I was the biggest she had ever been with. But I think she was just pulling my leg. Crime in multi-story car parks. It's wrong on so many levels. Did you know women make the best archaeologists? For their innate ability to dig up the past. A very old couple is in divorce court. The judge asks the husband how old he is. I'm 97. He asks the wife the same question. I'm 95, she says. The judge asks how long they have been married. 68 years, the husband replied. Bewildered, the judge says, 68 years of marriage and now you want a divorce? Good grief, why now after all this time? The wife tells him, we had to wait for the children to die. 3 girls are sitting in the playground. The first one says my mummy called me Petal, because when she was pregnant with me, a petal fell on her tummy and she said it would bring me luck. The second girl replies my mummy called me Daisy, because when she was pregnant, a daisy fell on her tummy and she said it would bring me beauty and joy all my life. The second girl asks the third girl, what's your name? Bwazibwok. How do you catch a rabbit? Hide behind a rock and make a noise like a carrot. What has 9 arms, long hair, and sucks? Def Leppard. What did the blind deaf often get for Christmas? Cancer. 3 Navy SEALs in training come to the final test. The instructor says, we have your wives in these 3 rooms. To prove your dedication and ability to follow hard orders, you have to take this gun, go in there and shoot your wife. The first one takes the gun and immediately starts crying. I can't do it, I love her too much. The second one takes the gun, walks in the room, and comes out a second later crying. I can't do it, we have 3 beautiful children together. The third one takes the gun, walks into the room, and there's the sound of 2 gunshots and some furniture scuffling about. He walks out and says, you didn't tell me these were blanks. I had to kill her with the chair. Why did a zoophile cross the road? Donald Trump. What's the difference between an old metal bus station and a lobster with E-cup breasts? One's a busty crustacean, the other's a crusty bus station. We're the government, and we're here to help. Gets me every time. My favorite dumb joke is to ask, wanna hear a knock knock joke? Them, yes me, you start them, knock. Knock. Me, who's there? Them, have you seen the 3 holes in the ground? No well. Horse walks into a bar and the bartender says why the long face? A Jewish man and a Chinese man are sitting in a bar. Suddenly the Jewish man stands up and punches the Chinese man in the face. Ow! Exclaims the Chinese man. What was that for? That's for Pearl Harbor. That was the Japanese, I'm Chinese. Japanese, Chinese, same difference. A few moments later the Chinese man hits the Jewish man in the face. Ow! What was that for? The Jewish man asks. That's for the Titanic. That was an iceberg. Iceberg, Goldberg, same difference. What did the stoplight say to the car? Don't look, I'm changing. Man walks into the doctor's office and says, Doctor, I was bitten by a crocodile. Doctor says, yeah, They do that, I don't know why, but this is so hilarious. What's the difference between a lentil and a chickpea? I've never paid $200 to have a lentil on my face. Okay, so this was my favorite when I was a kid and definitely speaks to my love of absurdity. Why did the mailman cross the road? Because he was stapled to a chicken.